if you are doing generative AI, you need the data in place for you to do that. Otherwise, you're just doing a one-off, right? The importance of data and the amount of time that people actually spend in putting the data together, that still has not changed. Now, the last aspect of this, which is analytics, right? So you're doing different type of analytics. Now here you're doing generative AI. Of course, that's a bit different, but still have to have the data in one place, and it needs to be clean. It needs to be governed. It needs to be a high quality. All of those still are the same.
Welcome to Biotech Bytes, where we discuss technology trends with leaders within our industry. We discuss their thoughts and feelings about what's going on in the industry, what's new, what's coming, what's happening now. I'm your host, Steve Swan, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Amar Drawid. He is the Chief AI and Business Consulting Officer at Agilism Consulting. Did I get that right, Agilism?
Agilicium.
Agilicium Consulting. There we go. Woo! So I didn't get it. Now I got it. Agilicium Consulting. Well, welcome. Welcome, Amar.
Thank you for having me here.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are
Good,
you?
good. Well, good. So what I usually like to do at the onset is just give folks an opportunity to give us a little bit of your background. You know, what kind of led you to being the Chief AI and Business Consulting Officer at Agilicium? So tell me a little bit about what's led to today.
Sure. So my background has been heavy in AI. So I started out at Yale doing my BSMS in 4 years, and that was combining machine learning and AI with computer science and biochemistry. And then my first role at Sanofi was doing a lot of bioinformatics, a lot of machine learning analytics. I did my PhD actually in machine learning, really focused on developing two algorithms for human immunology and oncology. And then I moved around a bit, doing I would say some translational medicine in clinical development, where I did a lot of biomarker strategy work. Also doing some clinical trials. Moved to commercial with ZS Associates first, where I developed the first a model for for predicting overall survival of a blood cancer. Then I moved into finance, where I did a lot of the financial valuation for companies, and then came kind of back to data analytics, leading really AI and data analytics. First as the U.S. head of data analytics at Celgene, later on as the global head of data analytics and infrastructure at Novartis. And this is my latest role, which is I'm the chief AI officer at Agilicium. And so, as you see, I've covered research, development, finance, medical affairs, as well as commercial. And so, this role actually allows me to work across the entire pharma value chain, from research to commercial. So that's I really love it.
That's great. So how long have you been with the company you're with now, and how many years do you have in biotech pharma total?
I've been with the company for over a year now, and we have done a lot of transformation of the company during that time. But I've been in the industry for almost 25 years. My entire career, I've been in the pharma industry.
Great, great. Well, thank you for that explanation there. Right. So focusing on AI has been a big component, right, for everybody in the world, right? But in our field, as it pertains to us, a lot of my podcasts that I've been doing are with the technology leaders within different biotech companies and such, right? And, AI certainly is on the front burner for everybody. So as you go around, because you interact with more than one organization, you interact with different folks, right? So what are some of the common trends you're seeing today? And I guess I could dovetail off that. How do you help them get to wherever they're going or not getting to that they want to get to? But I guess first, what are some of the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, so one of the biggest trends I've seen now is with the whole organizations, both IT as well as the business organizations, is to move into generative AI. Let's see, AI as a term has been it's been used in a lot of different ways, and it was by a lot of people it was being used more to mean more like the machine learning aspect before, even automation, a lot of that right before. And I would say a couple of years ago, a lot of the AI related projects were more the predictive analytics, the prescriptive analytics, and using machine learning to basically to figure out what to do next in your business. So that was more of the focus. And I also saw with IT a lot of big infrastructure projects, but also some of these AI projects. This trend that I'm seeing now over the last year is a move away from a lot of these big infrastructure projects and also from a lot of these machine learning projects into generative AI. And every client that I talk to, they are talking about generative AI. They want to get into it. Some of them are in it, but then a lot of them I see are more on the POC stage or proof of concept stage. So they're trying out a few things here and there. Everyone seems to have at least 50 or 100 use cases, but they don't know how to actually make progress with those use cases. But then there is a lot of effort into it. I don't think anyone has cracked the how to actually have a generative AI as an enterprise solution. People are trying there, but I don't think anyone has gone there at this point in the industry. But of course they'll go there, but I'm also not sure like they're considering all the different aspects of that, especially about cost, etc. But the way we are helping them right now is so we actually I came up with a generative AI framework specific to life sciences and pharmaceuticals about how should people be thinking about their use cases and what is the framework they should be using around that. So talking about not just the use case in the different domains of pharma, but also what is the feasibility of each use case, what should be the value that each use case should be bringing. Because see, the important thing is that I haven't seen anyone having a really good strategy and roadmap for generative AI. And so that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to, when I talk to a lot of our clients, that's what I try to have them do, which is have a strategy. I mean, right now it's okay. You want to get into AI, that's fine, but that's more like hype. Okay. Well, where you need to get into is what is the business use case that you're solving? What is the value you're adding? Because if you don't do that, a year or 2 years down the road, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot of that because people are going to ask questions. Okay, well, yeah, it's great as a technology, but what is the value that is added to us, right? So it needs to be very value focused discussion, and that's what I'm trying to do. And also, other thing, I mean, we have at this point developed over 30 generative AI solutions and focus on really the business use cases and the business questions. So these are the business solutions. So to solve specific areas. So a lot of the work around generative AI is very much I'm focused on right now.
I would say that, and I don't know what the numbers look like, right? But there's a lot of organizations out there, and I'm not just picking on biotech and pharma. There's a lot of organizations out there that have IT as a cost center, right? So they're not strategic a lot of the times, and they're not seen as a value add. But so even to do what you're doing, in certain cases, is a complete mind shift for them, right? Because they've been just, managing their as a cost center, as opposed to, what are we bringing to the bottom line? What's the strategy behind this? What are we doing, right? So a lot of times I could see that being a big uphill battle for you, right? But if you can get that mind shift and get them to think about this, boy, they could apply that to even the rest of their IT, not just Gen AI, right?
They can. It depends on the actual function that each group is playing, right? I mean, here as well, right? When you're looking at generative AI, what is it actually going to do, right? Is it going to save you costs? Is it going to increase your revenue? Is it going to be able to reduce your risks, right? That needs to be defined in business terms. And different teams in IT, they have the different functions, right? I mean, yeah, you have the compliance, et cetera, functions that are actually reducing the risk. But a lot of times it's a cost function because these are the necessary things to do. What we need to do from generative AI is, yes, there are some of the use cases that are reducing costs, but there are some use cases that can actually increase the revenue. So in that case, it becomes a discussion of, okay, well, where can we increase revenue?
Yeah. Well, and also, when Amar comes in, right? And Amar sits down with XYZ business group and the technology folks, where's the end zone is what Amar needs to know. Where's the end zone? What am I shooting for? What are we doing? Can I help you get there? How many times in a month do I have that conversation, right? Someone will call me and they'll just say, hey, listen, I need X, Y, and Z. Well, tell me a little bit more. Why do you need X, Y, and Z? What level, all that stuff for what I do. Sometimes I can't help somebody get there. Either the person doesn't exist or it's just maybe it's out of my expertise or whatever, but you got to understand, and I have to understand, where am I going? What am I doing? What's the strategy? Like you said, and then we can come up with a roadmap. We need to do this, do this, do this, do this. Then we can get to that end goal, that end zone, right? That goal, right?
Yes. And the key here is to have people who understand both IT and technology, but as well business, because we need to be able to tie whatever people are doing in technology to the business outcomes, right? Because that's the end goal. The end goal is always the business outcome. How are we helping the patients? How are we improving the patient lives? Now, that could be either through better engagement with the patients or providing them better support, or even providing better support and providing the right drugs to the physicians. It could be developing better drugs, right, and doing clinical trials in a much better way, and bringing the drugs to market in a faster way. Or it could be even like in research, right, where it develop or actually discovering new drugs, right? It could be in any of those, but then the end game should be tied to what the business outcome should be.
Now, the name of your organization, is that tied to our framework that we developed? Are we going with an agile mindset here?
Yes, absolutely. So it's
Okay.
I
had to ask.
It's a tech organization, and very much big into started out very much into data and application engineering. So that's data engineering. That's a very much of a forte. But of course, now it has become more of a data analytics organization. So we do a lot of data and analytics. But at the same time, now we have also become a very much a big generative AI player as well. I believe we have one of the largest portfolios of Gen AI solutions in life sciences at this point. So we have really reinvented ourselves. I mean, of course, the data engineering and data aspect is there. It's very strong. But then this is a new angle that we have developed for the company, which is the generative AI.
Having the foundation, the data engineering, the data analytics, that's 80% of the battle or more.
Yes. Yeah. Because see, even if you are doing generative AI, you need the data in place for you to do that. Otherwise, you're just doing a one-off, right? For you to do Gen AI in a sustained manner, you're going to have it's the same. That hasn't changed. The importance of data and the amount of time that people actually spend in putting the data together, that still has not changed. Now, the next aspect, right? The last aspect of this, which is analytics, right? So you're doing different type of analytics. Now here you're doing generative AI. Of course, that's a bit different, but you still have to have the data in one place, and it needs to be clean. It needs to be governed. It needs to be a high quality. All of those still are the same.
And that's your foundation, right? So all the leaders that I talk to on my podcast from the past, they all talk about that. We can build the greatest thing. We can have Amar come in and build us something that looks great. But if we don't understand the data and we don't have it clean, we don't have it structured enough where we can actually use it,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. We can
doesn't
ask
matter.
it to do anything. It can't do anything because we're not putting any garbage in, garbage out, right? So we're not putting anything quality into it, so we can't get anything out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, would you say, I mean, obviously AI and Gen AI, the big picture, right? And then obviously data going in. Are there any other trends that you see tangential to this or in addition to this that we should be thinking about in life sciences that has either helped or do you think may help us now or in the near future? Anything come to mind or anything that you're seeing as a trend that's coming down the road?
Well, I'm seeing like different trends across the value chain. So, yes, in general, there is better and better recognition about data analytics across the value chain that I'm seeing this. I mean, this was not necessarily the case earlier. In commercial, I'm seeing a lot more trend into going into omni-channel marketing, so quite a bit. So, going from just multi-channel marketing, which is the channels independent to each other, to really coordinating those and orchestrating that. So that's definitely a big trend that I'm seeing on the commercial side as a result of that. some of the roles on the commercial side are changing now and becoming more digitized. Well, so next best action is one of the big things that I'm seeing there. On the clinical side, I'm definitely seeing a lot more like, how do we actually do the clinical trials in better ways? How can we use real world evidence much more? And how can we even do like more analytics in clinical side to actually get more out of the clinical trials we're doing? And on the research side, I'm also seeing a lot of this use of these new technologies, generative AI, and of course, it's based on neural networks, about how we can speed up identifying the targets. How can we speed up identifying the molecules, the drug molecules for these? So I'm seeing these trends, and I think all of these are really good trends to have across the board. I think the progress you're going to see is probably going to be more incremental than very like revolutionary at this point.
Right. Well, I mean, we got to walk, right, before we
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
And that's what we're learning how to do. People are calling it the Wild West, or this is like when the internet came out, those kinds of things. I mean, there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of headlines around AI and Gen AI. And did it get ahead of itself? Possibly. I don't know, but it seems like like you said, we're getting there incrementally, right, in our
yeah,
industry.
yeah, yeah. And in pharma, the issue is that we have to be very careful about it, right? Because we are a very heavily regulated industry, and then we have to have very strong regulation around Gen AI as well, especially when we are dealing with patients or anything related to that, because they need to have only the accurate information, and that is key. So I would say, pharmas will adopt this, but I see that more like it's going to be a cautious approach so that it fits into the framework, the regulatory framework and the compliance framework. But Gen AI as a technology, I mean, I believe it is historically the fastest adopted technology ever in the world, and a lot of things are just not figured out at this point. And you're seeing every month, every few weeks, there's these new large language models that come in. They change the game, right? So it is very much like a moving target right now, and you have to be very careful about how you can harness that. I mean, it's fantastic. I think it's going to make a lot of big difference in how we do business in pharma. But the idea is going to be how we actually. That's why the strategy and the roadmap are very important in driving this. And it's also not just about, okay, well, here's the latest new OpenAI model or Gemini, right? But it's not just like getting, okay, well, what is the latest and greatest? It's about, okay, well, what value is that bringing to me, right? That's the main question that needs to be asked.
Well, yeah, and I also understand that I think the FDA came up with their own, I don't know, internal group handling AI now.
Yeah,
Have you heard
I
anything about
believe so. I believe so. Yeah. So I
that?
think there is some presentation. There was some meeting around that. So some videos that are out there as well.
Makes
So
sense.
FDA is also trying to figure it out. I think everyone is doing the right thing by really going at it, right? Like going to like basically espouse it, which is fantastic, right? They're not shying away from the new technology, but it's just I think it's just going to take time to actually just
It
figure
is.
out. I'm not talking about like years and years and years. I think but it's at least some time to just see, okay, what is possible, what is not possible, and then how do we actually ring fence some of that, and how do we get value out of it?
Well, like anything else, if there's economic incentive potentially on the other side of it,
Yeah,
gold rush, right? Let's start with that, and we can go all the way up to today, right? But if
yeah,
there's potential economic incentive on the other side, it's going to create, you know, foot traffic, mental traffic, whatever you want to call it, people investigating it and looking at it to see what we can do or what we should do or what we will do,
yeah,
and whether those economic incentives, bear fruit. That has yet to be determined, right? But I think for our industry, the things that we all point at, right? We've already gone through some of the automations and things like that, but you just talked about the discovery. Can we take that? Because when you see these CEOs getting beat up in front of the government, right, on C-SPAN, for their drug prices, they always talk about their research period, their 10-year lead time to get something up and running or more. if we cut a year off that, if we cut 18 months, that's huge. That's a lot of money. That's economic incentive. That's money and time for everybody, for the patients. I mean, start with the patients, work all the way back to the person that was the chemist in the lab,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
so it's saving everybody time and energy. So I think that there is, and everybody sees the potential for the economic incentive. We just have to get that whole value chain aligned, right? And that's what I think we're in the process of doing. I hope, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we have to find areas where it's going to make a lot of difference. It's going to make a big difference, right? And then, I mean, the way I see it is that, I mean, I talked about three of these before, right? With like increase revenue, cut costs, have better regulation, but also another thing is get better quality is another one. Can we have something? Can we do things with a more better quality and more consistency? Because that is just gonna then end up in whatever you're doing you're gonna be able to do it better, right? So that's the thing. So those are some of the things, but we have to quantify that, which is not a. I think the revenue cost is a bit easier, but it's again even that is not that usually clear cut because a lot of things affect the revenue, a lot of things affect the cost, right? So these are some tricky aspects to calculate. But I think a lot of times, if something is really adding value, your business stakeholders usually do get convinced that yes, there is value because if you take that away, then they're not able to function well, right? So that to me is a good indication.
You'll hear about it, right?
Yes, they'll hear about it. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you definitely hear about it. Now, I
Yeah.
think one of the things I like asking folks during the podcast is, what makes you different? What makes you unique, right? And I'm not just talking, you could talk about you, right? But you could also talk about your organization, right? Because there's a few folks like yourself and there's a few other organizations that do what you do. But, why, when Amar come, I know why I would, but I don't want to load I don't want to cloud the question. Um, why would someone say, hey, Amar's my guy. Let's do this because Amar's got this. Is there something that you say to folks or something that you would point at that would say, hey, this is my guy. This is the one I want to talk to about Gen AI, and this is the guy that's going to get me there.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest differentiators that we have, and myself personally, as well as our company, is bringing both the business and the tech together. So one of the things I've done as the chief AI as well as the business consulting officer at Agilitium is build a team of subject matter experts who are like marketers, they are scientists, they are clinicians. So they are not really data analytics experts, but they are experts in the business aspect of pharma. And yeah, and they work very closely with the Gen AI techies. And so way we build these solutions, we don't build the tech solutions, we build business solutions. And so the idea is that the tech solution gets developed, but then there are multiple reviews with the SMEs, and this is what we call the business reviews, and we call this iterative business reviews because there are a lot of iterations of these. Because what we want to develop is a business solution, not a technical solution, and this business solution is something that we then give to the clients. But as a result, because of this, I mean, this is the change in paradigm, and not a lot of tech companies have this, which is that we have our SMEs who actually talk to our clients, and this is a business conversation about what is needed, and then we will do the translation into what is it that's needed for tech. So that's something that I believe is a pretty big differentiator that we are seeing, and a lot of clients are saying, "Oh, that's fantastic, right? Like, I mean, we don't have to explain to you everything about what we actually want to do. We can talk to our peer who's a subject matter expert in your company." So that's something that we've been able to do. And of course, like me as I described, like I've worked in research development, the medical affairs, commercial, like all of these, right? So that's how like I'm able to bring in the expertise from any of those. And then so from whenever or wherever in the value chain the question is, I'm able to bring that in and then talk about it. But also as a result of that, see one thing you have to think about is see right now a lot of the companies they have their different functions who are thinking about it separately. But you can think about like the technical solution for many of these, something in research or something in commercial. The technical solution could actually be the same, although the business question and the business solution that you're looking at is completely different because you're focused on your area. So what we're able to do is say, hey, you know what? You can develop this, and this business solution is great, but then the technical solution of that, you can also apply that to that other thing, and then you just have to have like put that into business terms, and then you may need some bells and whistles to make it a business solution. But there is the underlying commonality. So a company should think about this, right? Like they should think about what are some of the common technological solutions they need to build, which can be applied across the board for a lot of different business solutions. And that's what we're actually doing internally as well. I mean, we are, there are specific technical solutions that we have, but then there for different business questions that come in, we're like, okay, well, for this one, you know what, this particular tech solution is very applicable to that. So let's use that. So as a result of that's why we were able to build so many business solutions so quickly is because of that. But you have to for that. Not only do you have to understand the technology very well, but you also have to understand the business very well to be able to connect all of that.
And I know I'm probably beating a dead horse. I'm going to say it again. You also got to know the data. You got to know what you're dealing with there too, right? Because if Amar comes in and he's dealing with a research group, maybe their data is great. Maybe their data is in good shape, but the commercial team, maybe not so good, and you or your team or somebody in your organization has to be able to assess that, because you could have that technical solution that's awesome, but again, garbage in, garbage out. So if the data is no good.
Yes. And that's why it's each business question should be treated as its own thing. I mean, that's the important thing, right?
Yes, going back to your original point. That's good. I like it.
Yeah. So the tech solution is there, but here's the business question that you have. How do you solve it, and what is the data that you have? And then you actually see how the solution is giving you answers. I mean, one of the things that we're doing, one of the solutions we built, Data Detective, which is basically you give it your structured data, and it's answering questions like why did that happen, why not. So it's interesting. We developed that for clinical aspect first. So it's and amazingly, like it was, we asked, okay, well, give me some correlation between a couple of these parameters in the clinical trials. And it was by itself was figuring out, okay, well, there should be a chi-square test that should be done for this and giving like statistical answers. Well, you know what? The basis of this is similar when we go to the commercial aspect. So commercial data detective, but commercial people don't want the statistics. They want more about, okay, well, here, like, what was the engagement? What are the sales? How are the sales up and down? So it's the underlying tech solution is very similar, but then the way it should be expressed, the way we're doing a lot of basically how we develop the shell of that is completely different. So you have the commercial data detective, which is very different from the clinical data detective, even though the inner workings are the same. The way the outer aspects are very different, actually, and they're very much focused on answering what the business stakeholders in that function want.
Sure, yeah. So you just answer. It's a technology is the same. You just answer a different variable, right? Huh. Interesting. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm glad we're putting this together, right? Because there's so many different pieces that I read about and see and talk to people about. And this is, in my opinion, I don't know. It seems like we're putting the whole thing together as we're talking about this and helping me understand it. I don't know about my viewers. Maybe they already understand all this. I don't know, but it's getting in line for me. So are there any other trends that you see that you think about? Because I don't want to keep you all day, right? So I just want to see if there's anything that you've been thinking about or that your company's heading towards that you want to share with us or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I think there is going to be, I think the trend has just started. I haven't really seen it very big time into being played out in pharma yet, but I think a lot of the data operations are going to be automated. A lot of the data quality, the data governance work that for which some of that is, yeah, there's some people are still doing it manually. There's some automation around that, but I think it will go to a higher level. A lot of the computer programming that's needed or data engineering that's needed around that will be automated with Gen AI. So I do believe that as time goes on, a lot of the data operations aspect will be more smoothened out, and then also will be much more automated, will be much more I would say, yeah, streamlined. That's one trend. I think it's starting. We're gonna be able to see it because see one of the big advantages of generative AI is it can write code as well, right? Just the way it can get insights or it can generate content, right? Those are, or like review content, right? Those are some of the things that it can do, but it can also write programming code. So I believe that that's something that will be coming over the next at least next couple of years or so, and that will change how the data organizations will be in the future.
I agree. Yeah, because right now you've got the really essentially, and I think you and I talked about this when we sat down. You got some of those junior level data scientists who are really doing the data wrangling, if you will, right? And
Yeah.
they're doing what you're talking about. My daughter's a computer science major, data science in college, and she spent the last 2 years essentially creating. There's 100 million person database, and she made it structured enough for them to run AI. To use it with AI. So before that, it was unusable. But to your point, she didn't do that in 2 years by herself. She had to automate, her code, different stuff to do different things. But there's no reason why, to your point, next higher level up, almost eliminate her and let the thing do it all on its own, and it would just automate all that process. So
Yeah, and I would say that instead of needing, let's say, 10 data engineers, you may need just 5 data engineers, right?
right,
Because I mean, I'm assuming for a lot of these aspects, each person will have a co-pilot who they can just type questions and then the co-pilot is able to answer them those questions very quickly. So as a result, you don't need that many people, and also one person is able to do a much deeper is able to get much deeper insights than what they're able to do right now, because right now they have to do the coding themselves and figure this out. So I believe that will happen over the next couple of years or so.
yeah, yeah, and to your point, I think it'll recognize it, it'll take care of it, and it'll handle it
Yeah.
all. And to your,
Yes.
I think that's what AI is going to do for everybody. It's just going to make them smarter, faster, better. I mean, I've even read articles about leaders in their management styles and being able to manage employees. AI is going to help them become a better leader and a better manager. It's going to hit everything. Eventually.
Yeah, it will. It will. The question is how. I mean, some of the things that I'm seeing interesting. Another trend is I think a lot of people are asking us about automating the clinical writing, the medical writing. So we have a big focus on that. That's where people spend a lot of time, and a lot of times, the one of the reasons it takes so long to submit to the FDA a lot of the documentation is the amount of time it takes to actually write the documentation. So if that can be made faster, that actually has a direct connection to revenue, because if you can write the documents faster, you're able to submit faster, you're going to get approval faster, and that's the drug gets on the market much faster. Of course, it's much better for the patients, and then the company also starts realizing the revenue much earlier. So that's one of the big use cases where I can see the value play very much clearly, rather than some of the others. But as a result of that, so I mean, as I said, we're getting a lot of demand on that. So we're working on a lot of projects about writing clinical documents, at least the first draft of the document. But that will save people time. I mean, days or weeks, yeah, and hopefully we can bring the submission time down for that.
Well, there you go. I mean, if you're able to measure that time, then you're able to measure the direct ROI on it. So
Yeah.
that's a solid use case right there, right? So,
Yes. Yes. Very
yeah.
much.
Well, good. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, so if there's anything else you want to cover, I always have one last question I ask of my guests. I didn't tell you about this question. I never do. Nobody ever makes to this part of my podcast or something, because so they don't know I asked this question. But if you have nothing else more to add, I have one final question, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So I like music. I'm a live music kind of guy. As a matter of fact, tonight I'm going to Madison Square Garden to see Pearl Jam. Going tomorrow night too. I'm going 2 nights in a row. But my question to you is live music. A, do you like live music? And if so, B, what would you say in your entire life has ever been your favorite that you've seen live? any concert. And if you haven't seen any, that's fine too. Some folks haven't seen any, but I like throwing that out since I'm such a music guy. I figured, you know what? I'm going to put a little Steve Swan twist on some of these and just ask folks about live music.
The best experience I've had of live music was we were in Morristown, uh, Morristown Music. I think there's the art center there, and then we were at a concert, and there was uh, Mozart music, that Mozart piece that was being played, and I was there with my wife, and she was pregnant, and my daughter, who was in her tummy, she started kicking,
Really?
and that was to be hilarious. That it was a Mozart piece, and then she started kicking. So we're like, yes, she loves music, and of course she is. I mean, she is a really good piano player. I mean, both my kids are. But so
Really?
to me, that was really funny. That how like once the music started, I the baby started kicking around. So that's an experience I remember quite a bit.
There's a lot to be said for that. I remember my kids are a little older, 24 and 21, but when they were little ones, and they may still be around, I don't even know. There was this company called Baby Einstein, and this woman, I forget her name, she sold it to Disney right when my kids were young. But anyway, it was a lot of the classical music with just kind of videos going and stuff. But back then we had the VCR tapes. Maybe it even went into DVDs at some point. But it was a lot of that, the Mozart and all sorts of different things. It was really cool.
It was cool. Although I think they did the study with Baby Einstein, and they didn't really find that like if you have the kids like who are pretty young do that, it doesn't necessarily increase their ability. I think I read somewhere around that. So
Okay.
like for my kids, I never had like Baby Einstein or so, but it was just more about uh, uh just having them listen to that, uh, and then working with them on that, right? And then like having them like play, a finger, some of these instruments. I think that was essential for them. I mean, as I told you, my kids just came back, and my daughter just is playing the piano for like 3 hours a day, and like my son is getting mad because he's not getting time. So it's a good problem to have, but
It
I
is.
guess it was, so yeah, I get to listen to live music every day.
That's awesome. I love that. My nephew sits down at the piano and can just bang away. A friend of mine's son, it's just like I'll walk in the house and I'll just hear them, just going, and I'll just sit there and listen. It's like, oh, hey, Mr. Swan, I'm just messing around on the piano. I'm like, really? Keep going. Forget I'm here. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's great.
And I think they were just telling me they were when they were visiting a relative, and they lives in an apartment, and someone just they had like they were playing on the keyboard, and a neighbor came in like, who's playing the radio? And they were like, no, it's not the radio. It's like it's live music actually. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That's good stuff. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, Steve, and be able to talk about AI and Gen AI in life sciences. So it's my favorite subject. So
Yeah.
really appreciate you giving the opportunity to talk about it.
Well, and I think we got a long way to go here, but this is great that, we got folks like you that are helping everybody out. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.